Jefferson High School sat quietly on the edge of town, just another public school with its red brick walls, a wide courtyard, and the usual morning routine. Students shuffled in half asleep. Teachers clutched their coffee and lesson plans, and the national anthem played softly from the loudspeakers. It was, by all means, ordinary. And like so many places across America, the flagpole stood tall in the center of the schoolyard, bearing the stars and stripes that rose every morning without fail. No one really noticed the man who raised it. Every day, before the buses arrived and the first bell rang, he was already there. His name was Walter, old Walter, the janitor, dressed in his faded light blue uniform, work boots scuffed from decades of wear. He moved through the school quietly, sweeping, unlocking doors, checking windows, and sometimes painting over graffiti before anyone had a chance to see it. He never made a sound, just worked. At exactly 7:57 a.m., every single morning, he stopped whatever he was doing and walked alone to the base of the flagpole. No one told him to. No one joined him. But without fail, he stood upright, placed his hand over his heart, and saluted the flag as the anthem played. His eyes would lift slowly toward the rising cloth, and for those few moments, it was as if nothing else existed. The students walked by. Most didn't see him. Some glanced, but quickly looked away. It was just the janitor. Some of the kids even thought he looked ridiculous, saluting like that, so seriously, in his janitor's uniform. A few found it funny. Phones came out. Videos were taken. "Oh, dude thinks he's in the Navy," one kid joked. "Bro's doing a full-on military salute." Another laughed. The videos hit social media. Short clips captioned with sarcasm, and hashtags like #SaluteMan, #Who even is that guy? Nobody knew his name. Inside the staff lounge, the teachers talk about test scores, budgets, and policies. Walter's name didn't come up. He wasn't on the teaching roster. He didn't sit in meetings. If someone did mention him, it was usually about a light bulb that needed replacing or a leak in the locker room. Nothing more, except for one teacher, Ms. Linda, who taught senior American history. She noticed, every morning as she crossed the courtyard, she'd catch a glimpse of Walter standing perfectly still at the flagpole, hand to chest, eyes steady. It reminded her of someone, but she never said anything, until one Wednesday morning. It was early, around 7:45. The sunlight broke through thin clouds, casting long shadows over the courtyard. Ms. Linda had arrived early and walked slowly across the schoolyard. She saw him again, Walter, already in place, his right hand pressed firmly over his heart, his body still as stone. Through the dusty glass of custodian's booth, she watched as his lips moved in sync with the anthem's words. It wasn't casual. It wasn't routine. There was reverence in it, something deeper. That same day, 3 boys stood near the flagpole and watched him from a distance. One recorded a video. Another mimicked the pose, mocking. They snickered and uploaded the clip before class. The caption read, "Who salutes a flag like that? What a weirdo." No one stopped them. Ms. Linda said nothing. But that evening, she couldn't get the image out of her mind. The old man saluting alone, completely ignored by the world around him. The next few mornings, the same scene repeated. Walter worked. Walter saluted. Students mocked. Teachers ignored. Ms. Linda watched silently, and deep inside her, something stirred. A question, maybe even guilt. Who was Walter? Why did he salute like a soldier? He never asked for attention, never explained himself. When the anthem ended, he turned and walked away, slow and steady, back to his duties. Mopping, fixing, sweeping, day in and day out. The same motions, the same quiet devotion. And the flag waved above him, not even realizing who had honored it most. The scene ends with the courtyard once again settling into silence. It's 8:01 a.m. Students are now in class. Teachers are taking attendance. And Walter stands for just a second longer, his hand still over his heart. Then, without a word, he lowers his arm, turns, and disappears behind the school building. No applause. No nods. No thank you. Just the sound of his boots echoing down an empty hallway. It happened on a gray Thursday morning. The kind of morning where the sky feels too heavy, and the air carries a quiet chill. Ms. Linda was sipping her coffee in the staff lounge, scrolling through her phone when she saw it. Another video of Walter. Another round of laughter from the students. The camera zoomed in on him, saluting the flag. The caption read, "Captain America mopping floors." That was it. She stood up, placed her cup down with quiet finality, and walked out without a word. 15 minutes later, she entered her first period senior history class. The students were still buzzing from the video, sharing it among themselves, laughing. Ms. Linda walked straight to the board, picked up a marker, and in bold letters wrote, "Do you know who he is?" The room quieted. "You think it's funny," she said, facing the class. "You mock the janitor every morning. You call him names. You take videos of a man you know nothing about. And that tells me more about you than it does about him." A few heads lowered. A few faces froze. She let the silence linger. Then she told them the truth. "That man you laugh at, his name is Walter James Morgan. He once held the rank of lieutenant commander in the United States Navy. He served for over 20 years. He saw combat. He survived fire and ocean and darkness deeper than any of you can imagine." She paused. You could hear the breath in the room. "In 1991, she continued, there was an accident on board a submarine off the Pacific coast. An explosion in the engine room. Fire everywhere. They thought no one could make it out. 12 men were trapped inside. It was Walter who went back. Again and again. He dragged them out one by one while the boat, filled with smoke, and the temperature climbed. Some of the students had stopped breathing. He saved all 12. Suffered third-degree burns on his arms and back. Collapsed after the last man was pulled out. For his bravery, Walter was awarded the Medal of Honor. The room was frozen. He was a hero before any of you were born. No one dared speak. After he retired, she said softly, his wife passed away. They had no children. He moved here quietly, took a job as a janitor, not because he needed the money, but because he wanted to be around the flag. Every morning, he watches it rise. It's his way of remembering, of honoring the ones who didn't come home. Her voice cracked slightly, but she didn't look away. And you laugh at him. Silence. Thick. Unbearable. Then, slowly, one by one, the students looked down at their desks. Some flushed with shame. One boy slipped his phone into his backpack. The glow of the screen now an embarrassment. A girl wiped her eye without looking up. The mood had changed. Ms. Linda placed a marker down. "You all have homework tonight," she said, softer now. "I want a one-page paper. Title it, 'The Man I Didn't See.' Due tomorrow. No complaints. No groans." As the bell rang and the students filed out, there was no laughter, no side conversations. Just a strange, solemn quiet. A quiet that followed them through the halls. Past the janitor's closet. Past the flagpole. Walter was there as always. But this time, something was different. They noticed him. The next morning, something had changed. Not in a loud or dramatic way, but quietly, like the subtle shift of wind before a storm. When the flag rose up the pole in front of Jefferson High, Walter stood as he always did. His right hand rose in salute, sharp and still, just as it had every morning before. But this time, he wasn't alone. A few students stood beside him, then a few more. They didn't say anything. No one cracked a joke or took out a phone. They just stood, facing the flag, hands over hearts or in a stiff salute, mimicking the posture of the janitor they once mocked. There were no apologies spoken aloud, no grand gestures or emotional speeches. But Walter didn't need any of that. The silence was enough. The respect, finally given, was loud in its own way. By the end of that week, the whole school had started to follow. Every morning at 7:55, students, teachers, and even the principal would stop whatever they were doing to stand by the windows, on the front steps, or in halls, and join Walter in his silent tribute to the flag. It wasn't about patriotism for everyone. For some, it was about dignity. For others, about humility. And for many, it was about acknowledging a man they had overlooked for too long. Walter never addressed the change. He never mentioned it to Linda or to the students. He just kept showing up, same time, same place, same silent salute. 2 weeks later, something else appeared beneath the flagpole, a brass plaque set in stone. No ribbon-cutting ceremony. No announcements over the loudspeaker. Just a simple plaque that read, "In honor of Lieutenant Commander Walter M. Harris, Medal of Honor recipient, U.S. Navy, for service beyond the call of duty, in war and in peace." That plaque became a quiet landmark on campus. Students would pause to read it, parents would notice it during drop-off, and teachers would sometimes guide their classes past it, sharing the story not just of Walter the janitor, but Walter the man. And every morning, as the flag unfurled in the cool morning breeze, Walter would stand a little straighter, not out of pride, but out of peace. The peace that comes from being seen. Years later, long after Walter had retired and moved on, the school still upheld the tradition. No one mandated it. There were no rules. But the flagpole each morning drew students like clockwork. A new generation, most of whom never met Walter, would stop, stand, and take a moment. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about what he stood for. Dignity, service, quiet strength, the idea that some heroes don't seek recognition. They live their truth silently until the world finally pauses long enough to listen. Jefferson High never became famous. No news crews came to film the flag ceremonies. But something lasting had taken root there. A kind of reverence not born from fear or obligation, but from understanding. Walter never asked to be honored. He simply wanted to see the flag each morning. He wanted to remember. And in doing so, he helped a whole school remember, too. The final image, a lone flagpole standing in the early light, the fabric rustling softly, and beside it, students, young, vibrant, and still learning, standing still for one quiet moment each day. It was a small ritual, but it meant everything, because somewhere along the way, they stopped seeing Walter as just a janitor, and they started seeing what he really was, a reminder that greatness doesn't always come with titles or applause. Sometimes it just comes with salute and the sound of a flag waving in the morning wind. If this story touched your heart, please click like. Share the video with those you hold dear, and don't forget to subscribe to the Old Soldier Story channel. Every share is a quiet way of saying thank you to ordinary people who lived extraordinary lives, like Mr. Walter. At Old Soldier Story, we tell true stories, deep, moving, and full of humanity, made especially for those who cherish memories, history, and quiet dignity. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.